100 million plus views generated for clients entrusted by top creators for scroll stopping packaging. Alejandro Jimenez is the founder of Thumbnails Factory, a specialized agency focused on high performance YouTube thumbnails. He works directly with creators and brands to increase their click through rates by creating curiosity, clarity, and having that visual hierarchy into every thumbnail. Throughout testing, iteration, and working across multiple niches, he's developed a deep understanding of what actually drives clicks versus just what looks good. Today's conversation will cover how thumbnails really drive performance, how to tell whether a video has an idea problem or a packaging problem, and a live breakdown of what works, what doesn't, and how to systematically improve click-through rate at scale. Alejandro, welcome to today's show.
Hello, Ethan. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to join in your podcast. Yeah, let's make the audience understand better what thumbnails are, how they work, and how they can improve their thumbnails for their channels, right?
100%, and it's pleasure is mine. So just to get started then, is what tends to be the biggest misconception that creators have about why thumbnails tend to get the attention that they do?
Sure. I think the biggest misconception right now is thinking that a great design can make a thumbnail perform better, right? Even though we all know that great design is important, not only for YouTube thumbnails, but for every aspect of your business. It's not the main principle that you have to follow when working with a thumbnail designer. Things are obviously with AI and new technology getting easier to nail when it comes from a design point of view. What still matters and what is still getting clicks is the idea behind the thumbnail, the fact that you can see far ahead from just design and understand that thumbnails are just the first part of your marketing funnel as a business, and it's not just a matter of design. It has to drive curiosity, and it has to be complemented with the title, with the video idea, and of course, as if with any other part of marketing, we need to test a lot, get data, and repeat proven formats.
100%. And just to add on to your point, I feel like a lot of creators or just people who are business owners that are not content business owners in the sense that they don't know how content runs, they tend to have their thumbnails and titles say the exact same thing compared to have the title say something different, but it's still aligned to both. And the
Mhm.
thumbnail says a few different words that gets the viewer's attention. So then if we were to make this a little bit more tactical for the audience, then when you look at a thumbnail, what tends to be the first sign that this will perform and do what the creator's optimizing for, or flop before you even think about like the design process, i.e. the aesthetics?
Yeah, when it comes to a thumbnail either doing great or underperforming, there are like different things we have to take into consideration. We can look at it a little bit later on, but the main thing I would consider is making sure that the thumbnail has contrast. And what I mean with contrast isn't just like pulling it into the Photoshop camera or filters,
Yeah.
but is that when you are in your homepage in YouTube, like it interrupts the pattern of the other thumbnails that you see in your homepage, that you can clearly see what's going on without having to look at the thumbnail for more than 2 or 3 seconds. Because when people are scrolling on YouTube, they aren't really gonna spend a lot of time looking at your thumbnail. So it needs to have enough contrast so that they look at yours and they understand very quickly what the video is about and the message you're trying to convey. So then they can read the title, read the thumbnail at the same time, and decide if they want to click on your video or not.
Yeah, actually, when you mentioned the contrast, that's actually a part of one of my own internal frameworks of how thumbnails should be created. Every thumbnail needs great focus. So first
Yeah.
the frame. So like where do the eyes go first? It just goes back to like they're on the YouTube homepage, there are multiple thumbnails and videos being presented to you at the same time. It just depends on like what one gets your attention and then makes you click on the video, then watch all the way through. But for today's conversation, it's just the packaging, i.e. the front end. Second is the object. Like what is the one thing that the thumbnail is about? A lot of creators get this wrong and they have 10 things in the video or the thumbnail, and it's just like so confusing, and you can make a viewer feel overloaded and just get emotionally overwhelmed and just scroll on. Third is that contrast, having that perfect aesthetic, color, emotion, value contrast throughout. Fourth is the urgency. So why should the viewer click now? For people viewing this video, they should study not necessarily clickbait content, but like news, business content of like Jerome Powell said this, market is crashing, and you see like that red arrow down and their faces like shocked. So that would be another way to create that urgency. And then simplify, remove all the visual noise, and just I found that if you keep it simple, stupid, you tend to have a well-performing thumbnail. So then you mentioned before, just on your LinkedIn content, you mentioned that thumbnails help amplify the idea, but tend to not fix the bad content. How do you tell whether the problem is the idea versus the packaging, let's say, in under 30 seconds?
Sure. Sorry, before we jump into that next question, so there's something I wanted to clarify about the previous one. First, there are like multiple tools you can use to see how a thumbnail looks in the homepage without posting the video, right? So like there are thumbnail previewers, let's say, that you can use in order to see how your thumbnail will look in mobile, desktop, the homepage, etc. So that's something the viewers can use to see if their thumbnails will look great in smaller screens, and that's something I would recommend. And also something that we're seeing more and more is making sure that the packaging is also oriented with the hook of the video and the first part of the video, just to make sure that thumbnails aren't just making people click, but also making people stay in the video, because the message you're trying to show to the audience is actually achieved in the video. And that's why YouTube, now that they released a few years ago the native A/B testing tool, they aren't doing it based on CTR, but they are doing it based on watch time duration, because they want to make sure that the thumbnail is not only helping the viewer click but also stay in the video. So that correlation between thumbnail or thumbnail and title and hook is also very, very important. And now, yeah, we can move to your next question. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries.
I think we have to understand that sometimes the video idea can be bad. Sometimes it can be a packaging problem. The truth is that to avoid this, what biggest creators are doing is working on the packaging together with the video idea, right? So if we look at more beginner channels, what they will do is they will work on ideation, they will record the video, they will edit it, then they will send it to the thumbnail designer, and they have to work with the material they have, with the hook they have, and with the title that they are given. If they don't work on titles, if they can also help with titles, they will work on the whole packaging solution. But that's a real problem. Why? Because the truth is that some videos may not be good enough and they are like super hard to package. So the solution to that is working, even just ideating the packaging with the video idea can be enough. Maybe we don't need to work on the final thumbnail, but having a rough idea of how we want to package an idea we have can really make sure us understanding if the video idea is enough, if it's all right, if it's gonna be an outlier, if it's gonna flop, etc. So yeah, I mean, it's hard once the video is already recorded to save a bad video, even if we really work on the packaging.
Yeah, I agree with you. So speaking of looking at just content in general, I think now would be a fantastic time, Alejandro, if you can just share your screen and feel free what you want to share. So the viewers, we're going to be breaking down thumbnails and see what works, sees what doesn't. And from the people who maybe we be breaking down your thumbnails, this is just from a way to improve. It's not hating on your content. It's not roasting your content. It's just finding ways from our experience of what we can do for you to improve your content. Alejandro, feel free to share your screen whenever you're ready.
Sure, one sec. Can you see this?
Yep, it's now to the stage.
All right, let's go through it. I created a small list of some channels that we could help with thumbnails, and actually we redesigned one thumbnail for Smartly, one of the channels we have in our list. First of all, what I would like to mention is that some businesses, which is one of our main type of clients, we work either with business owners trying to grow their business on YouTube, or with companies that already have a reputation and want to use YouTube as a new way of getting leads, being bigger, and basically improving their content and marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. We're working with some companies like HubSpot, Y Combinator. We used to work with SEMrush in the past, Business Insider, and a few other big names in the industry, and we've got results for them. And basically, I would love to share with you all the knowledge from working with these people in these companies into something that can be replicated for other businesses as well. The main problem I've always seen with some companies is that they try to stay too on brand with their thumbnails, right? And even though I'm a fan of having brand consistency on thumbnails, so when you click on a channel's page, you see that all the thumbnails are related. It's not that they are similar, but they all have maybe font consistency, style consistency, so you can feel the vibe of that creator. And all the biggest creators, no matter what they are, so if they are businesses or just business owners, are doing it on YouTube. Mr. Beast has a style, Iman Gatti has a style, Alex Ormuzzi has a style. It's something that follows along all the niches and all the creators. But some companies that aren't really that YouTube native overdo it, and they still follow like their branding book into YouTube. So it makes things harder for the thumbnail team or thumbnail designer to execute. Things end up looking a little bit too flat, and they aren't really YouTube oriented or YouTube native. So that's like the first thing I wanted to mention. There are like hundreds of companies making this mistake on YouTube, and just by doing small changes to how they understand thumbnails, they can really change the direction of their channels.
100%. And just to add on to your points, the branding playbook of 2017 is not the branding playbook of 2026. I actually love that you mentioned working with Business Insider. I like sometimes when I'm just having free time, love watching the videos of them talking about how coffee is cultivated in Brazil or one of those videos. So I always love that. So feel free to share your thoughts when it comes to Smart Lead.
Sure. So this is Smartly. Actually, let me pull it directly from YouTube. What we can see at the thumbnail that they have been trying to improve lately, we can see that now they are doing more YouTube oriented thumbnails, right? Is that, as you can see here, it looks way too corporate. Like it looks more like a presentation for the corporate team than than thumbnail. They are always trying to keep their branding, which may cause them to make it harder to reach newer audiences. And it's something we can prove, not for this case with data, of course, because we don't work with this channel, but it's something that can be proven with data that thumbnails can have more reach if we have less branding into them. So if we avoid the classic logo in a corner, which many channels like this one have, and yeah, like channels, even if they are a company channel, the direction and I've been seeing for the last few months is that they are trying to make them more personal. So it doesn't look that much like a company channel, but more like a person talking to you, even if that person is a part of the company, but it just looks more personal. Because at the end of the day, we are on social media to talk with other humans and not to talk with businesses. And even if we all know that we're watching a company channel, the goal is to make it more personal, so people are more eager on watching that type of content.
100%. So to make this a little bit more tactical, then, if you were to pull up let's do this, the AI SDR is overhyped. Here's what actually works. That one on your far right, the one with like 384 views. What would be like the first, even though it seems more like a personal brand compared to their past situation, what would be like the first change for that one that you would make?
Sure. Here it seems they are starting a new series, which is like a podcast. So I'm not against having a more branded style for podcast. The things I would say here is that we're having way too many elements that are related to the series instead of having more elements related to the content of the video itself. So we have one element being the number of the episode, another element being the logo of the company, and a third element being the the logo of the series, right? So it's like three elements that occupy a lot of space into the thumbnail just about branding. And then the text is exactly the same as the title, if you can say. So it's like we're repeating information instead of amplifying it. We have two opportunities to convince a person to click the title and the thumbnail. And if we're repeating the same information in both, it's like we're wasting one opportunity to convince the viewer to click. Plus, I would say the text here is way too long. I wouldn't do more than 5 words for a text into the thumbnail, because then it's like you have to read too much. And here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 8 words more or less. So yeah, I would say that's the main thing for this one. Actually, let me grab real quick a thumbnail we designed for Y Combinator a few months ago that is also for a podcast style thumbnail.
Mhm.
Here, of course, like the timing was great because it was when OpenClaw had their
I saw that
massive hit.
episode. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I clicked on it. So
yeah.
kudos to you for making it. You got my attention. So,
I guess it did its work. Of course, like some companies still like to have their branding, so that's why we have to incorporate it into their thumbnails. But you can see if we compare this thumbnail to the other one, that this one has way less elements. It's just title, the guests, and the background. Like that's it. I wouldn't add more than 3 elements into a thumbnail because then it can become too much. The text is short and it's not exactly the same as in the title. And there's like the thumbnail looks deeper just because of the work, the way the lighting and shadows are created when it comes to the design part. If we compare it to this one, we can see like the difference. This one looks flatter, right?
Mhm.
And when it comes to the other type of thumbnails, I wanted to show you a redesign we did. This isn't for a specific video, it's more a generic thumbnail that we wanted to do, and it's to show how we can still keep branding into thumbnails. So we are keeping their color, which is purple, into thumbnails that are of course YouTube oriented. And I think that's the way companies should start incorporating branding into thumbnails. It's not about keeping the same fonts as they have in their brand books. It's not about being too picky about the colors. Like you don't necessarily have to follow 3 or 4 colors that are into the brand guides if you feel that those aren't going to convey the message you want to show to the audience, right? Or that they aren't really trigger the emotion that you want to trigger on the viewer.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think this is gonna be the new meta for YouTube in 2026. Thumbnails won't have crazy edits. We're leaning towards a cleaner style. The Mr. Beast style that was popular in 2022, 2023 isn't working that well anymore. People want more authenticity. They want raw videos. They want raw thumbnails. And that means that we can't go that far in terms of the overall design, right? And also in terms of the faces, etc. Things are getting again more raw. Edits aren't that crazy, and it also depends on the audience that you want to reach. The older the audience you want to reach, the more natural the thumbnails have to look, because otherwise they may be pulled back from watching. So yeah, another thing you have to consider when working on thumbnails is who are you trying to target? Is it from the 18 to 25-year-old demographic? Is it 25 to 34? Or is it an older audience? And depending on the audience, the messaging on the thumbnail has to be different, and also the type of edits you do have to be different. You can't go that crazy on a
Mhm.
thumbnail if it's oriented towards a more older audience.
Yeah, 100%. If you could go quickly to the, I think it was SEMrush or the same company before, yeah, Smart Lead.
Yeah.
I like to add on to your point when it comes to the AI SDR video. It just goes back to it's way easier to subtract and add when it comes to creating thumbnails. Just found it's way easier to make it just super simple compared to adding so many things. And I do agree with you that the new upcoming trend when it comes to thumbnails is not having that kind of corporate look, is transitioning more to having a guy or a small team of people be that mini personal brand for that brand. And then, but it's also the one biggest nuance is reducing key man risk. Let's say if one of the heads of content there who is on all the thumbnails and titles quits, now you have a massive fire that I have to put out when it comes to where's the next person. So I highly suggest to people for corporate, let's say B2B SaaS, for instance, to have more of a smaller team compared to just one person. So there is, of course, variation. but it also reduces the key man risk as well. I think we can also jump over to the other thumbnails, Alejandro. So feel free to bring that over if we've covered everything for Smart Lead.
Sure. All right. That's the thumbnail we had redesigned. So we had some ideas here about stuff that we could redesign. When it comes to other channels, one sec. Uh, Here, Sequoia Capital. Let's go through it.
I love Sequoia Capital so much.
They are having a similar problem as the previous one, even though their thumbnails look cleaner and like in terms of the overall style, they look more professional. I think overall, even they have some videos doing great. It's like they aren't really YouTube oriented, right? If that makes sense. If we compare what Y Combinator is doing and what Sequoia Capital is doing, I think we can clearly see the difference that one looks more like repurposing content from TV, and the other one looks more like YouTube oriented content that is literally created for the YouTube audience here. If we wanted to go towards the direction of the other businesses we have mentioned, I think we need to completely redesign what is being done here. I mean, I think it's not about small tweaks. It's about, again, going more into the direction I mentioned earlier.
So you feel, just to confirm, that if you were to compare the two, Y Combinator and Sequoia, Y Combinator has the advantage over Sequoia when it comes to the thumbnails due to the videos and the thumbnail and packaging that they're creating. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in terms of volume, Sequoia is putting, of course, a lot of volume because they are posting 6 videos a day, which I think is, or like at least here they have like
Multiple,
6 videos. Yeah, which is insane. But if we look at the views per video and compare it with Y Combinator, overall I think they are getting more success, right?
But it's also, I think, Y Combinator has a larger following to begin with compared to Sequoia. So that's, I think, another important nuance that you have to consider when it comes to content. Because if I was to ask like my classmates, hey, have you heard of Y Combinator? Yes, I had.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Sequoia? What's Sequoia? Oh, it's
Yeah.
something similar to Y Combinator.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. When it comes to content, there are a lot of questions that you should and have to ask for you to deliver a super quality service. And I believe that by comparing views to another channel that might have less audience naturally is something that you have to like work through. However, of course, when it comes to content in general, one of the biggest questions to push that needle forward is to what extent. So if we were to have Sequoia as a client, we want to beat Y Combinator when it comes to our packaging, our content creation, etc. So it's always even the current situation is this, we want to push our current situation, and to beat Y Combinator, and to push it to what extent. To what extent is one of the best frames in business of how we can just 10x this over and over again.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add here is that I don't think how big a brand is should necessarily be a limitation for YouTube. Because again, if the brand is limiting our YouTube growth, maybe we're being too branded in YouTube. Because if the content is great and the information is important, I'm not sure people matter that much if the company is Y Combinator, HubSpot, or SEMrush, or any others, right? So they are on YouTube either to be entertained or to learn. And if you can see massive companies getting very little views on YouTube, and that's because they aren't optimizing well enough for their YouTube growth. And I think that the other way around, we could use the same interpretation, right? So I don't think there's something we can't achieve just because the company is
Smaller.
a little bit smaller. Like we've even had companies grow and being created on just online, just from YouTube itself. So I think the YouTube channel could outgrow the company itself as well.
Yeah, 100%. It just goes back to like what extent can we push it, even though current
Yeah.
situation is this. But this company could have a lot of potential and even outshine when it comes to this specific part of marketing, i.e., social media marketing. Okay, sweet. So feel free to cover anything else when it comes to thumbnails, Alejandro. Then I can share my screen and cover a new interactive part as well compared to.
Okay, in terms of channels, I think that's like enough to show the audience on how we could, at least for businesses, incorporate more YouTube strategy. If you want, I can share another one that is more YouTube native channel, just a personal brand instead of a business, so they can see as well what's something that we could do.
Let's do the personal brand, actually. That would be a
Okay.
great thing to transition to the next thing as well. It's a great overview of what we covered so far. A lot of things dropped when it comes to thumbnails.
Okay, here we have Greg Lowe, which is an e-com guy, an e-com founder. Let's put it into YouTube. So this is now B2C, it's not B2B anymore. And here's the thumbnail so people can see here what he's been creating. Of course, like he's had some massive success, so it doesn't mean that his thumbnails aren't great. We're just gonna mention what we could change here and how we could improve or could change it. But of course, it's not criticizing their work or the results, because they are doing great. A small thing I would change here is trying to have more consistency in thumbnails. Again, I think that's something very important to create a more branded look. And it doesn't mean, again, that we have to stick too much into branding, but having consistency helps a viewer identify you and your channel when they see a thumbnail. So it can help having more recurrent audience, and that can be important, especially for the push of videos and the start. Here, what I feel is that they've been trying different styles, if you understand what I mean. Like it's like this is going more towards a cinematic look. This one, for example, which hasn't worked so well, it's like you can really see the text because it's covered by the minutes. And it's like it doesn't really have any cohesion. You have like 3 elements. It's not following like any composition rules. Like it's following, of course, the rule of thirds, but you're not really focusing on any elements. If you watch this thumbnail on YouTube on your homepage, I'm not sure I will understand really well what's going on unless I read the title, which is of course very, very clarifying. And for example, to put another example, here what we were mentioning about branding is happening again. So we're trying to push too much logos, and it really not doesn't help to make a video perform. I mean, I would really try to avoid using our brand's logos as much as possible into thumbnails. But overall, this guy is doing a better job. Just wanted to comment a few things on his channel and things that we could improve, because of course any thumbnail is perfect, any thumbnail designer is perfect, we all can improve. And I think even just improving small details can bring a bigger win in the long run.
Yeah, and to add on to your point, that's why I love marketing. Is even, let's say, for instance, sales, you can only convert at 100%, and that tends to not be the best when it comes to the quality of customers that you get. That's why marketing is that you can easily do a very small simplistic change and 10x the amount of lead flow that you're getting in, i.e. views. So that's why I love marketing. And then second, the framework of making sure this thing that's placed in a thumbnail is beneficial or not is like, does this increase the likelihood of viewers watching, yes or no? And if it's a no, or is like, maybe, cut it. If it does, keep it. So I love your point when it comes to how Greg's personal brand is structured.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, now to transition to a very brief part so viewers can see a little bit about my perspective when it comes to positioning. So feel free to unshare your screen and I can share mine real quick for today's conversation. All right, I'm guessing you can see this, right?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I told, for viewers, for context, I told Alejandro right before we recorded to feel free to give me any blunt advice. But before he does that, and before I give some of my thoughts about it, I want to preface with one thing. The reason why the packaging is this way is, if you're probably watching this, you're not a 16-year-old kid in high school, even though I'm still a high school student. Based off of my demographics, you're above the age of 30, which means you have a higher likelihood of being successful than a high schooler. So my quality of audience is who I want to attract, the high level operators. That's why sometimes I include the content operator podcast in these videos. So as you can see here, the inspiration for everything starting from Russell to Magundan has been the Ryan Clog format. Let me just pull that briefly up. So Ryan Clog is a G. He's amazing at what he does. So he is the co-owner, I believe, like the CEO now, compared last time I checked on LinkedIn. And this is what I kind of got as inspiration when it comes to the high-level operator podcast niche, when it comes to online business in particular. So as you can see here, the most recent one did like decent, got 1.3 thousand views, but of course Ryan has a larger audience than me. But it's just a split thumbnail based off of like a StreamYard recording, which is the software that we're using. And as you can see here, most of his thumbnails are just a split screen, especially the one that performed very, very well. Is a very simple title, no text on the thumbnail, and it's Ryan laughing and then Josh like saying, "Oh no, what's happening?" But that's the reason why I kind of created the thumbnail strategy that I have when it comes to my podcast. So feel free, like, of course, there are rooms for improvement, and I'm currently split testing this one with more of a more typical podcast setting look. So I'll see how that thing goes. But Alejandro, feel free to give me your advice when it comes to the packaging for these thumbnails.
Sure. Of course, I think it depends on what's the roof you want to have in terms of views, because this type of thumbnails, even though they may attract an audience that may be older and like more interested in a deeper level of the content and not just the surface, it can be limiting when it comes to growth of the channel. We have some people have we have had some people having success with this type of content, like Imangatsi Business. Jordan Welch also created a secondary channel, and there are a few others. But of course, there are people that already have their main channel, and they are just trying to create a second one for that high ticket audience that can maybe pay their one-on-one coaching, um, their masterminds, etc. And they are trying to bring that people from the main channel to the second channel, and it's like just another part of the funnel. I didn't know Ryan Clock, this guy you were showing, but of course he's done decent on YouTube and has had some success in some of the videos. Of course, I don't know. I don't run your business. I don't know the numbers behind like the leads you're getting from this strategy and how it's going so far. Another strategy that is really powerful when it comes to podcasts, especially if we're recording from home, as in this case, it's creating thumbnails that look like personal brands. If you know My First Million, if you know the Next Wave, which we used to work with from HubSpot, if you want to go through their channels, like I don't know, My First Million, for example, we can show the audience.
Yeah, let me just
What I
pull that up
mean.
for context as well.
Okay.
Because I do occasionally listen to My First Million. I think it's Sean and I forget the other guy's name, but it's very interesting about the Sam and Sean. Okay. Yeah, so it's more of, because most of their content is being recorded online when it comes to these. Of course, in-person podcasts are way better. So if I was in your location, Alejandro, Spain, we can definitely record a podcast in person because those tend to perform better. But I do
If you
agree with
scroll
you.
down, or maybe go to the more popular videos, mm, go down a little bit. Yeah, like the pickleball court, the X1, you can see that those are still podcast thumbnails, but they created like a personal brand type of thumbnail. So it doesn't really look like a podcast unless you click. So that's another powerful format that I think can be replicated. If we go more to the YouTube space, we can go at the vidIQ, sorry, 1 of 10 podcast.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I love the 1 of 10 podcast. I
yeah,
forget his name, but
yeah, it's like the same, not having that repeated format and having more variety when it comes to thumbnails. And again, I think it can work well. And again, it's a podcast recorded from home, and they're still doing like very engaging.
yeah,
So
100%.
just another type of thumbnails that can work, and I think can be less limiting when it comes to the roof of viewership that
Yeah,
you can get.
100%. I appreciate you the advice when it came to that, and that was something that I was transitioning over to. Let me
Mhm.
just unshare my screen because I'm actually in talks of a thumbnail designer right now, so that's why I'm split testing. So
Okay.
I know we covered a lot, and I'm glad we covered a little bit more in depth than expected when it comes to the live breakdown. I think that's really, really important. So then to wrap up today's conversation, then if someone to summarize everything that we talked about, if someone wanted to significantly improve their click-through rates in the next 30 days, what would be a roadmap for them? And then what trends do you see that have not been what we talked about today?
Well, first of all, click through rate is important, but we need to look at it like more carefully. Why? Because it's a data point. It's information that depends on so many parts. First of all, we can, if we go to the advanced mode of YouTube and we analyze by traffic source, we can see the CTR for each traffic source. First, which traffic source is our video trying to optimize more? Is it search? Is it organic? Like what are we exactly trying to get from this video? Is it an evergreen video that we want to position in search, so as the CTR we want to optimize the most? Is it people finding the video on the homepage and clicking? So that's like the first thing that we can look at CTR from different points of view, and it's not just the main CTR graph that we all see on YouTube when we are seeing the stats of the video. And also that the CTR really depends on the how wide the audience is, and like how many people are seeing that thumbnail. So if a video gets viral and it's getting lots and lots and lots of impressions, the CTR will probably decrease a little bit, because the video is getting to people that don't know you and they are less likely to click. While the first days of the video, when the video is live, the video is getting and reaching your audience, your more core audience, so they are more likely to click. So the CTR goes up. So it's important to optimize it. Is it important to optimize CTR? Yeah. Is it something we really have to obsess on without analyzing it from a wider perspective? Not really, because we can have misinterpretations and make mistakes just because of a number. But if we want to increase like views and overall performance of the videos, I would say doing strategy, doing packaging strategy while you're strategizing the video and not waiting last minute, testing a lot and analyzing what works for other channels and for yours, and repeat what has worked for you before. Analyze your data, save it, and make sure that you're not making the same mistakes again, and that you're repeating what is already working on your channel. And point number 3, if the video isn't working, just completely redo the thumbnail. We've seen great success repackaging thumbnails for videos that were doing poorly. So if you're sure about your video, it's doing great, the watch time is good, the retention isn't really flopping, then I would suggest to just completely redo the thumbnail and see what happens, because it can really save the video, especially during the first days. If the video has been posted recently, or if the video is evergreen, you can always improve the video's performance. So yeah, act fast, act quickly, and make sure that the thumbnail is not killing the performance of the video by running more tests and more data.
This has been the Content Operator Podcast. Thank you, Alejandro, for joining today's show.
You're welcome.